Chapter 41-36. When Ning Shu saw the Origin King, his first reaction was that this son of a bitch wanted to snatch the person from him. Who found this person for you? What are you thinking? Are you daydreaming? The Origin King completely regarded himself as the company's interviewer. He sat down, tidied up his clothes, and asked Dong Qian arrogantly, "What can you do?" Dong Qian. Although he didn't understand the current situation very well, Dong Qian was keenly aware that he seemed to be caught in a war between two big shots. Maybe he could fight for a chance to survive. He knew a lot of things. He knew piano, finance, management, and everything that a rich second generation should learn seriously. He learned them all. Of course, he also knew how to spend money and find fun. Various thoughts flashed through Dong Qian's mind. How could he make this man fall in love with him, but he couldn't guarantee that he would have a better life in this man's hands. Maybe it would be even more miserable than becoming a skeleton. Damn, what kind of terrifying Azura battlefield was this? Dong Qian said, "I know management, finance." The Origin King narrowed his eyes and looked at him, making Dong Qian tremble. The Origin King, speak human language. Dong Qian. Am I not speaking human language? The Origin King, I asked you what you can do. Can you repair houses? Dong Qian was confused for a moment. The Dong family was a real estate company that repaired houses, but the problem was that he didn't know how to repair houses. The Origin King stared at him, and Dong Qian trembled. Just as he was about to speak, Ning Shu raised his foot and stepped on Dong Qian's body. Dong Qian suddenly felt a lot of pain. Even if he couldn't feel it now, he still felt the pain. Ning Shu looked at the Origin King. "What, you want to snatch the person from me?" The Origin King, "What snatch? Why did you bring a human back?" Ning Shu, "Guess." The Origin King snorted, "You said that I enslaved humans before, but now you've brought a human back. Isn't that enslaving humans? You made me think that you were on the side of humans." Dong Qian shrank his soul and tried to reduce his presence. This kind of scene was not something he could intervene in. In the end, these big shots would just treat him like a fart and let him go. He was really flattered. He really couldn't stand these big shots fighting over him. "Please don't fight over me." Earthworm looked at the two of them bickering and asked, "Should we steam it or not?" Ning Shu stomped on the corpse again, causing Dong Qian's face to twitch. "Steam. Why don't we steam? We have to steam." Earthworm walked over, grabbed the clothes, and dragged the corpse away. Dong Qian was scared out of his wits. He rushed in front of the earthworm and almost knelt down. "I beg you, don't cook my corpse." "No, my body." Earthworm looked at Dong Qian with clear eyes. Dong Qian was simply drunk. "You're so good-looking, yet you're grabbing a corpse and wanting to cook it. Do you know how perverted you are, brother?" The earthworm said, "Your corpse, no, your body is already smelly. You can't go back. Give up. Some things are irreversible." Although Dong Qian knew this in his heart, he still harbored a bit of hope in his heart. Moreover, although these people lived in desolate places, they seemed to be different from ordinary people. What kind of extraordinary power could allow him to return to his body? Live, or want to live? Now that he heard the other party say this, the disappointment in his heart could be imagined. Dong Qian had always looked very gentle. Although he said such shocking words with a calm expression, Dong Qian felt that he was unfathomable. He asked Earthworm, "Can't you do it?" "Earthworm, why should I do that? You're already dead. Why should I bring you back to life?" "Dong Qian, I'm actually speechless." Ning Shu and the Origin King were still arguing. The Origin King felt very wronged, so much so that his voice became much louder. "You didn't allow me to find humans, but you actually found humans yourself. We're the same, why don't you allow it? I'm happy to keep a pet by my side. Then I'm also happy to give humans a chance to shine." I'll let them work for me and give them what they want. The Origin King snorted, stretched out his hand, and directly grabbed Dong Qian's soul. He pulled him in front of him and asked, "Do you want to be a pet or fight for your career?" Dong Qian, he cursed in his heart. What does this have to do with me? Being forced to join the battlefield, Dong Qian felt bitter in his heart. It's too difficult for me. Ning Shu stared at Dong Qian with his almond eyes, as if saying, "Be careful what you say, you know the consequences." Dong Qian trembled and said, "I don't know. Everyone's heart is different. Some people like pet creatures, have poop pickers to provide them with food and drink, and are responsible for pleasing them. Some people like to live a busy, fulfilling, and meaningful life." Pleasing both sides, the Origin King snorted. Humans are really slippery, thinking about how he would have to manage thousands of humans in the future, and how each of them was so slippery, it was really difficult. Thinking so, the Origin King's gaze towards Dong Qian became more and more unfriendly. Although he had never been friendly, this gaze still made Dong Qian curse in his heart. "It's really too difficult for me." Ning Shu glanced at Dong Qian and the Origin King indifferently. He was too lazy to compete with the Origin King, but he was a little unwilling. He had just caught a fucking human, but it turned out that he was a professional. According to Dong Qian's temperament, he might really support the Origin King's plan to capture humans from a small world to build the void. Dong Qian trembled even more violently. He was clearly pleasing both sides, but both sides were looking at him with murderous intent. For a moment, Ning Shu couldn't figure out if Su Kong wanted to change his appearance, change his voice and smile, change his clothes. Should he intervene or not? Should he help or just watch from the side? His head hurt, and people like Dong Qian, Ning Shu thought for a while. Regardless of the Origin King's matter, Dong Qian could not be in the Origin King's hands. To put it bluntly, the Origin King would definitely not be able to play with Dong Qian. He might even become a knife in Dong Qian's hand. She really looked down on the Origin King's IQ. Even her IQ was lower than his, yet he still wanted to control the huge human population. What kind of daydream was this? Did he think he was granduncle? Ning Shu stretched out his hand. "Give this person to me. If you want a human, go find one yourself." The Origin King did not really want to fall out with Ning Shu over a human soul, and there were some places where the Origin King really needed Ning Shu. He threw the soul into Ning Shu's hands. Dong Qian. Was this father a ball? Dong Qian was so angry that he was about to cry. He felt like he was a ball without any dignity, being snatched and kicked here and there, his dignity crushed. However, these people could kill him with just a flick of their fingers, so he really could not resist. He even shouted, Can't you show me some respect?" Chapter 41-37. Dong Qian was choked by fate and didn't dare to move. The Origin King, however, was very angry and accused Ning Shu. "This is double standards. How am I a double standard?" Ning Shu asked angrily. The Origin King blabbered, "Senior uncle is also enslaving humans, why don't you blabber? When I said I was looking for humans, I only asked them to work, I didn't ask them to go through fire and water, but you blabber and blabber that I enslaved them. Too much double standards." Ning Shu rolled his eyes, "Do you really think I'm a double standard?" The Origin King said indifferently, "Is it not double standards?" Ning Shu immediately said, "I'm worried about my IQ. Do you know why I said that? It's because I can't control it." The Origin King snorted twice, "How do you know I can't control it? I find humans to enslave them, and senior uncle finds humans to cooperate with them, right? How do you know which humans are content with being weak? How do you know that some humans don't yearn for great power? Why do you think they should stay in a small world and live a short and unquestionable life?" Ning Shu sneered, "I'm really worried about my IQ. Don't blabber with me. You always say I'm blocking your way. When did I stop you? If you want to do it, I'll drag your legs." The Origin King, "You didn't stop me, but you're always singing bad praises for me. Dong Qian, who was the real father here? Earthworm, steam or not, Ning Shu replied, steam, Dong Qian. Don't. Ning Shu said angrily, if I blabber about this again, I'll change my surname. The Origin King snorted, touched his nose, and asked Dong Qian, can you build a house? The Origin King still wanted to fight for this soul. He always felt that since it was brought back by Ning Shu, there would always be something that Ning Shu liked. To put it simply, snatching things was better. Dong Qian wanted to get rid of the fate of becoming a skeleton, but it seemed that he might not succeed. He wanted to say that he could build a house, but damn, he could manage a real estate company, but he didn't know how to burn bricks or make cement. As for steel and other things, he knew the general direction of the place, but he really couldn't get these things out. Dong Qian immediately said, I can help you find someone to repair the house. Ning Shu patted his head. Behave yourself. Dong Qian immediately felt as if his soul was being torn apart. He was almost scared out of his wits. For the Origin King, this was simply sending charcoal in snowy weather. Having encountered an oasis in the desert, he immediately said to Ning Shu, give this person to me. Ning Shu, I'll give it to you if you call me Dad. Dong Qian, oh my God, why were they so provocative when they spoke? Why were they so confrontational? The Void King, Father, Dong Qian. Following which, Dong Qian felt his soul relax as it was sent into the hands of another person. Ning Shu understood that he could not stop the Origin King, nor did he have the qualifications to stop him. If he really couldn't control it and suffered a backlash, that was his problem. Not long after, a white skeleton was brought to the courtyard by the earthworms. As for the meat, because it had been cooked for a long time, there was a foul smell. He dug a deep pit and buried it. Dong Qian watched as his body turned into a skeleton. This feeling was really strange. It hurt so much. Ning Shu looked at Dong Qian, who had escaped a calamity, and said to Void King, he is in soul form, and his soul is very fragile. If the wind in the void is a little stronger, his soul will be blown away. The Origin King shook Dong Qian twice. He also felt that he was really too weak and could be crushed to death with a finger. The Origin King Ning Shu asked, what do you think we should do? Turn him into a skeleton, and then add merit to his body. This will make him very tough. Dong Qian. So, in the end, this was still his fate. Then why did he fight so hard before? To fight the air with his wits and courage. I don't want to become a skeleton. I'd rather be a soul than a skeleton. The Origin King asked, if there is no merit to add to the body, will it be very fragile? Ning Shu, yes, it will be fractured in one hit. The Origin King. Dong Qian. Dong Qian couldn't wait to have his soul destroyed. The Origin King frowned. So fragile. And what the hell is merit? I don't know what it is. Where can I get it? Ning Shu shrugged her shoulders. She just wanted to turn Dong Qian into a skeleton. As for whether there was any merit to it, she didn't care very much. Ning Shu said, if you really want merit, you can ask the Abyssal Prefect and the Little Demon, it's the world of reincarnation we went to last time. They have merit in their hands. The Origin King was not a young man who had just come out of the abyss. He said, if I want it, they will give it to me. Ning Shu rolled her eyes at him. Smash it with your energy body. If a rich man used money to smash people, the people who were smashed would definitely be very happy. And this kind of stupid rich man was very welcome. The Origin King. My energy body wasn't blown here by the wind. Ning Shu. Wasn't it blown here by the wind? These energy bodies, did they have to work hard to find one? They were all made by the creatures of the underground world. Now that they had obtained it, they were acting like they had worked hard to earn it. Well, the Origin King couldn't win against Ning Shu, and he had stolen one of her people. At this time, he didn't dare to argue with Ning Shu too much. Dong Qian said in despair, can I become a skeleton and maintain this state? If he really became a skeleton, Dong Qian realized that he would be a skeleton for the rest of his life. If he was a soul, he might be able to reincarnate. If he wanted to attack, he could retreat and defend. I really want to be a human and give him a chance. Now that Dong Qian was the Origin King's subordinate, Ning Shu was too lazy to care and ran over to sort out the bones. The bones were smooth and not a bit of flesh was stuck to them. They were very good bones. Dong Qian begged his new master, "Can I be a soul?" The Origin King disdained, "No, this is too weak. I don't want such a weak subordinate." Dong Qian wanted to cry, but he also knew that he had no ability to resist. He could only stammer to Ning Shu and ask, "Is there anything I need to pay attention to during this process?" Ning Shu thought for a moment, "Does very, very painful count?" Dong Qian's soul trembled twice, "I can endure." He couldn't. Ning Shu, maybe your soul will scatter, and there will be rejection during the fusion. Or maybe your soul won't be able to endure and you will fail in the end. Dong Qian's legs trembled, "Is the risk so high?" "I refuse, do you hear me, idiot?" Ning Shu stared at Dong Qian. "It's best to find a belief that allows you to persevere. After all, only a soul with deep obsession can persevere, and a soul with deep obsession may not necessarily succeed." Dong Qian was already powerless to cry. His life was really too bitter. Chapter 41-38. Dong Qian had already cried out in his heart countless times, "Why me? There are so many people in this world, how can this kind of thing fall on my head?" Dong Qian did not feel the beauty of this new world. What power! What longevity! It was not beautiful at all. Ning Shu nodded and said, "By the way, you will also lose your memories." The Origin King immediately said, "How can he work for me without his memories? Damn it, he's as ignorant as I am, okay? What's the use of having him?" Dong Qian immediately sensed a glimmer of hope. Ning Shu said, "I will also lose my memories. Without my memories, how can I help, sir?" Ning Shu looked at Dong Qian coldly, "Are you questioning me?" Dong Qian immediately shook his head, "I'm not, I'm just worried that I won't be able to help, sir." His expression was particularly loyal. Origin King Ning Shu asked, "Is there any other way?" Ning Shu stretched out his hand, "I need to have strength to think of a way." The Origin King snorted, took out a small bag of energy bodies, and placed it in Ning Shu's hand. Ning Shu's expression was displeased, "That's all." The Origin King also became angry, "Take it or leave it, if you don't want it, forget it." Dong Qian was very curious about what they were trading. Was this thing money? If these people cared about it, it must be something good. Ning Shu put away the energy bodies and said, "You can also maintain your soul state." The Origin King rolled his eyes, "So weak, how can you maintain it?" Ning Shu nodded, "The soul can also be strong and can be blessed with virtue." Dong Qian felt weak, but he was finally able to maintain his memories and not become a skeleton. Dong Qian's heart was particularly resistant to being a skeleton. He was a normal human being, and he could not accept becoming a skeleton. He did not want to live in such an ugly state. The Origin King touched his nose and asked again, "Then how can you strengthen your soul?" Ning Shu coughed and stretched out his hand. The Origin King was furious. This was robbing a burning house. He had never seen such a greedy person before. He could only tremble as he took out a bag of energy bodies. Even if he had a mountain of wealth, being moved by Ning Shu bit by bit like a mouse made him feel as if a knife was being twisted in his heart. He didn't feel good. Ning Shu quickly took the bag from his hand, but the Origin King clutched the bag tightly. Ning Shu had to pull it out of his hands twice before he could do so. What's there to deduct? This is a necessary expenditure. If you really succeed in the future, there will be mountains and seas of wealth flowing from your hands every day. Void King. His heart ached so much. Void King, what is it? Ning Shu put away the bag. Fa Tian had food again. He didn't know when Fa Tian would wake up. Ning Shu said, since his soul is weak, let's strengthen it and give him some soul energy. The Origin King suddenly sighed, isn't that simple? I'll just go to the Transmigration world and catch some souls for him to eat. Ning Shu rolled her eyes at him. Go. Feed him more of this soul that is mixed with the 7 emotions and 6 desires soul poison. Then, he will become a soul that has no consciousness and will even go crazy. The Origin King suddenly became irritable, this won't do, that won't do, then what do you think we should do? Ning Shu glanced at him sideways, this is your leadership ability. If you're so irritable, how can you manage your subordinates? The Origin King suddenly looked at Dong Qian, do I look that bad? Am I not a qualified leader? Dong Qian said with great difficulty, no, you are a qualified leader. How could this elementary school chicken be a qualified leader? He was even inferior to a rich second generation like him. The Origin King said to Ning Shu, go on. Ning Shu rolled his eyes so much that his pupils couldn't be seen. All that could be seen was the whites of his eyes, as if he was blind. Are you stupid? Since you don't have pure soul power, then carry the energy body to find pure soul power. Not only will there be pure soul power, but there will also be merit. The Origin King subconsciously asked, where can I find pure soul energy? Ning Shu looked at him expressionlessly. The Origin King suddenly hammered his palm, Grand Uncle, Ning Shu's requirements for the Origin King were very low. Seeing him finally react, a twisted gratification flashed across his face. The Origin King's face became awkward again. Ning Shu didn't speak, so the Origin King finally said, I can't go by myself. Can you be the middleman? In the end, the Origin King was afraid that he would be cheated. Moreover, the Origin King felt a little inferior. He was just a dog, not even a small group. The other party was a big group, so he felt a little guilty. In the end, he still had to rely on Ning Shu. Ning Shu chuckled, isn't that simple? Just throw in money. It's already so difficult for you to buy something. You want to sell your house in the future? Dream on. The Origin King consciously took out 2 bags of energy bodies. Ning Shu reluctantly accepted the money. There was no other way. He was now a poor man, and there were still people waiting to eat at home. Dong Qian's heart was filled with both joy and despair. He was walking on a road of no return, and it was a road with no end in sight. He didn't know what to do at all. He was very confused, however, Dong Qian was most afraid that he would die. These people were too ferocious, and he was too weak. These people seemed to be running around for his strength, which was great. If he was strong, he would have a little confidence, earthworm, so, don't take the skeleton. Ning Shu waved his hand, no, just bury it. Finally, he was buried in peace. Dong Qian was moved to tears. Earthworm dragged the skeleton away expressionlessly, and then there were broken bones all the way, causing Dong Qian's eyebrows to twitch. It was indescribably strange and abnormal. Mother, I want to go home. I don't want to be here. The people here are so scary. Dong Qian was still mourning that he couldn't be buried completely, but in the next second, his consciousness became chaotic and he fell into a deep sleep. The Origin King put away Dong Qian's soul with a very disgusted expression, you're really too weak. I don't even dare to use too much force. Take the energy body and come with me to find Grand Uncle. After giving the money, the Origin King confidently ordered Ning Shu, wait a moment. Ning Shu came to Fa Tian's room. There was the sound of chewing in the room. It was Jin Ji eating. On the other hand, Heaven Punishing was still a whip. It had no thoughts and did not move at all. Ning Shu poured all the energy body he extorted from the Origin King on Fa Tian, hoping that this energy was enough. Jin Ji swallowed the food in her mouth and asked Ning Shu, when will he wake up? Ning Shu sighed, I don't know. She didn't know what was going on with Fa Tian, nor did she know how long he would sleep. She didn't know what Fa Tian had sacrificed. Jin Ji's mouth was still stained with food. She asked Ning Shu with some uncertainty, then, he will wake up, right? Chapter 41-39. From when he would wake up to when he would wake up, this was a big difference, and her expectations were greatly reduced. Ning Shu said with certainty, he will definitely wake up. Fa Tian should know in his heart that he would not lose his life. All she could do was find more energy bodies so that he would have enough energy and attributes as soon as possible. Ning Shu bared his teeth, really wanting to rob the Origin King. The Origin King knocked on the door. Are you done yet? Are you going back on your word? Do you have any spirit of contract? I paid for it. Ning Shu opened the door and said angrily, we will go sooner or later, what's the hurry? The Origin King said, pay attention to your service attitude, I paid for it. You paid for it, but I didn't sell it to you. Why do you care what I do? Now is not the time to serve you. The Origin King glanced at the room, he hasn't woken up yet. What's there to say about a whip like an idiot? Ning Shu said, I'm happy to do it. Why do you care what I do? The Origin King raised his hands, I don't care. Take me to get pure soul force. He emphasized the word pure. A primary school chicken like the Origin King would show whatever he was thinking on his face. It was nothing more than thinking that she was lying to him. Moreover, when he went to find that organization, he had a suspicious attitude and felt that he should not spend his money in vain. Before Ning Shu left, she said to the earthworm, Tao Yin, she dragged out her voice, I want to eat the food you cook, wait for me to come back. The earthworm said expressionlessly, my hand just fiddled with the corpse. Ning Shu. Okay, I'll eat it later. By the way, did you fall behind in your cultivation? How is it going? Is it gas, liquid, solid, or form? The earthworm, what do you want to eat? Ning Shu, braised pork, 8 treasure duck, I want to lose weight, and a few vegetarian dishes. After sending off Ning Shu and the Origin King, the earthworm picked up the bones left behind like firewood, so as not to make the yard too gloomy. After all, stepping on someone's bones while walking out was something that would affect one's mood. The Origin King put on the posture of a business negotiation, but when he really arrived, he deflated like a punctured balloon. It was impossible to look for the grand uncle all over the world. Who knew where he was? Then, he would look for Sang Liang. They were in a state of being together. If he could find Sang Liang, he would be able to contact the grand uncle. Ning Shu swaggered into the city of law like a big shot and had to crawl into the consultation room like a crab. From the moment she entered the city of laws, she could feel that something was watching her, staring at her without hiding anything. Ning Shu allowed this gaze to stare at him. After entering the consultation room, Ning Shu sat on a chair. Seeing Su Wang standing there, he said, sit down and wait. After waiting for a while, Sang Liang did not come out. Ning Shu knocked his legs, not in a hurry at all. However, there was no tea. This service was too bad. Ning Shu took out an eyeball. This kind of fish eyeball was given to her by Dong Lan. She played with it in her hand out of boredom. As a result, she accidentally pinched it, and the gray-white thing inside splashed out and splashed on the ground. The air was filled with the smell of fish. Ning Shu directly threw the eyeball on the ground and then casually wiped the liquid on her hand on the wall. The Origin King made a sound of surprise, his expression disgusted. Obviously, he was a little disgusted. The bored Ning Shu took out another eyeball. This time, the Origin King stayed away from her. What's wrong with you? Ning Shu sighed and looked at him sympathetically. She didn't want to say anything to him. Just as the second eyeball was about to be pinched out, Sang Liang came out of the inner room with a book. He lifted the curtain and paused for a moment before coming out. He did not even look at the gray-white liquid on the ground and asked indifferently, what do you want from me? Ning Shu pinched the eyeball in her hand, and the gray-white liquid splashed out again. Sang Liang frowned, and there was some anger between his brows. Ning Shu wiped her hand on the wall again, leaving mottled marks on the wall. She said, I suggest you put some paper in the room. Just like now, my hand is dirty, and I don't know where to wipe it. Sang Liang said, I think you should bring paper with you. Ning Shu said casually, there is no paper in the consultation room. It's your problem. You have to solve it. Sang Liang was too lazy to look at Ning Shu, who had no quality and bad conduct. He flipped through the book and said indifferently, what's the matter? Ning Shu said to the Origin King, I've called the person for you. If you have something to say it yourself. The Origin King coughed and was a little nervous. Even his ears were red. Do you have pure soul power? I want to buy it. The louder he was, the more it felt like he was bluffing. Ning Shu rolled her eyes. Dragging this brat out was simply embarrassing her. Sang Liang was very calm and asked, what do you want this for? The Origin King did not want to reveal his business secrets. He straightened his neck and said, I'm just asking if you have it or not. Why are you asking so many questions? Just tell me, are you selling it or not? Sang Liang, not selling. The Origin King was suddenly stuck. Were all sellers so arrogant these days? He did not ask you to gently call me a kiss, but don't be so straightforward. How am I supposed to respond to that? You're making me embarrassed. Damn it. Ning Shu took out a grayish-white fish eyeball. The eyeball had been left there for a long time, so the smell was a little strong. She also took out the eyeball that was in the room earlier. After a while, the entire consultation room was filled with the smell of fish and decay. Sang Liang glanced at her and asked the Origin King, what do you want to do with this thing? I need to know its use. If you use it elsewhere, it will cause an imbalance between the world of life and the world of reincarnation. The Origin King said directly, I have a weak soul. I need this thing. Although that soul was really weak, he could not tell outsiders. Otherwise, others would think that his subordinates were weak. Sang Liang did not speak, but the Origin King asked directly, are you selling it? The Origin King took out a small bag of energy and threw it on the table with a clang. This is an energy body. The Origin King probably enjoyed the feeling of throwing money. Sang Liang glanced at it and said expressionlessly, this energy body is not what we want. The Origin King probably did not expect that his trick, which had always worked, would fail and asked irritably, then what do you want? Sang Liang, you don't have what I want, and some people don't want to give it. The Origin King. Speak human language. One was buying something, the other was selling something. What was the point of making it so complicated? What kind of trick was this? Ning Shu looked at Sang Liang dumbfounded, what did you say? I want you. Was this blatant unspoken rule? Chapter 4140. Ning Shu looked at Sang Liang speechlessly and said, you're still a child. You won't even let go of a child. You're so naughty. Sang Liang was too lazy to pay attention to her, not even giving her a single glance. Ning Shu smacked his lips. Sang Liang's behavior was wrong, how could he do business with the unspoken rules? The Origin King felt that something was wrong, but for the sake of his career, he still asked Sang Liang, what do you want to trade? He didn't want his energy body, but he didn't seem to have anything valuable on him. He was really so poor that he only had his energy body. He was really a poor man. Sang Liang, we only want initial energy. The Origin King looked blank, what the hell is that? I've never heard of it or seen it before. Ning Shu said to the Origin King, you don't have what they want, let's go. Sang Liang was not angry at all and instead felt a little benevolent, we'll trade again when you have the time. Ning Shu left the consultation room with the dizzy Origin King and walked down the street. The Origin King asked Ning Shu, what is he talking about? Ning Shu did not hide anything, the energy at the beginning of a plane's formation. The Origin King was dumbfounded, where am I supposed to find such a damn thing? He even suspected that the other party did not want to trade and instead came up with such an inexplicable thing. Ning Shu shrugged and said to the Origin King, this kind of thing is really not easy to find. Its energy obtained at the beginning of a plane's formation, and its state is unknown. Your current mentality and ability are actually that of a cub. Do you want to play in the mud for a few more years and have a good childhood? Ning Shu sincerely minded. The lifespan of void creatures was very long, so why was he in such a hurry? If the Origin King really wanted to work for this career, he would have to work for who knows how many years. TSK. For the lazy Ning Shu, this was a very scary thing. If he had to work for a lifetime, what was wrong with playing for a while? The Origin King was just about to refute when Ning Shu said again, I'm not asking you to play, but to learn. Don't let yourself be so ignorant that you don't know what others are saying. The Origin King looked at Ning Shu and found that there was no mockery on her face. He also felt that he had been too ignorant. However, he would never admit it. Do you think I'm ignorant? Ning Shu asked, what do you think? Void King, I think it's okay. Ning Shu wanted to buy some desserts. After all, it wasn't easy for earthworms to make desserts. They didn't have the materials and skills. However, without merit, he was poor. When Ning Shu arrived at the restaurant of the Chongsam man, the waiter came up to greet Ning Shu. Ning Shu asked, apart from using merit to pay, what else can your restaurant use? The waiter's smile was very polite and official. Sir, we only accept merit. The Origin King had failed to throw money at them before, so he was quite displeased. He took out a small bag and slammed it on the table. This thing is 10,000 times better than your merit points. Energy bodies were good things, but some people didn't know what they were. Moreover, this kind of thing was not circulated among mission enforcers and organizations. The waiter opened the money bag and saw the colorful stones inside. He didn't know what to say and could only politely send the two out. The Origin King, what the hell is this place? I have money, but I can't spend it. What the hell? The Origin King was very irritable and slammed his fist on the table. He wanted to fight. Don't move, the currency is not circulated. Let's go. In other people's territory, they had to use their currency. Without money, they couldn't even eat desserts and cakes. Forget it, she wanted to lose weight. Desserts and cakes were too high in calories. She would get fat if she ate them. The Origin King, who had gained nothing, was expressionless. Ning Shu didn't care. Young people just needed to suffer more setbacks. In the future, the Origin King would encounter this kind of thing many times. Although it was poisonous chicken soup, it was indeed the truth. The Origin King stretched out his hand. Give me back my energy body. Ning Shu looked at him from the corner of his eyes. The Origin King, you didn't even succeed. Why are you charging? Ning Shu said, that's the middleman fee, alright. I did set up a contact for you and helped you get in touch with him. But when it comes to transactions, it's a matter of mutual consent. Now you want to take back the middleman fee? Do you think that's ethical? The Origin King, I don't care, I don't listen, Ning Shu. Can you be more mature? It was very childish to pester endlessly. Ning Shu said coldly, it's not like there's only one place to do business. If this one doesn't work, we can change to another. The Origin King immediately said, what you said is very reasonable. I think so too. So which one should we go to next? Ning Shu snorted, his face showing obvious disdain. Let's find someone with merit and soul power, such as His Excellency, such as Little Demon. The Origin King, then let's go now. Ning Shu found the location of the space node marked last time, then tore open the bit wall and entered the world of reincarnation. Seeing Ning Shu, His Excellency's pale face showed very obvious emotions. Dissatisfaction, unhappiness, and disgust. Anyone would be pissed to death if their home was so casually entered and left so casually. Ning Shu also felt that he had gone a bit too far. He should have made an appointment to give some face to his partner, so he took the Origin King out of the world of reincarnation and then sent a message to His Excellency. An old friend is here to visit. Are you free? His Excellency, he almost laughed out of anger. What was the difference between this and knocking on the door after entering the house? His Excellency. Yes. Only then did Ning Shu tear open the space wall and enter. His Excellency didn't like Ning Shu, he didn't like him when he was still a rookie, and he still didn't like him now. Ning Shu didn't care about His Excellency's attitude at all. He said to His Excellency, I brought you a business deal. You can talk about it. His Excellency didn't comment. He played with a red flower in his hand. His snow-white fingers made the flower look like it was about to drip blood. He said coldly, what business? The Origin King took out another money bag. It's full of energy. His Excellency's figure straightened slightly. He glanced at the bag and asked coldly, what do you want? The Origin King said directly, I want pure soul power and merit. His Excellency just shook his head. No. Ning Shu. No, my ass. His Excellency had hundreds of millions of skeletons, and these skeletons all needed merit to increase their strength. As for pure soul power, maybe there was, maybe there wasn't, but he had a lot of unpurified soul power in his hands. With Dong Qian's fragile soul, he might be able to hold on for a while with a little impure soul power, but after all, it was polluted. Pollution was easy to cure, but it was difficult to restore it. Chapter 41-41. The soul poison couldn't be removed at all, unless one jumped into the reincarnation pool. When the soul poison was removed, one's soul power would also be scraped away, and one's soul would become much thinner. Hearing His Excellency say no, the Phantom King was a little confused and angry. Why are these damn places so poor? There's nothing here. His Excellency glanced at him. This idiot, Ning Shu didn't force His Excellency. She wouldn't be angry if the business didn't succeed. After all, it wasn't her business. Ning Shu asked, you don't have it? Then I'll ask him. Ning Shu was talking about the little devil. The little devil was now the Lord of Samsara. Even if she couldn't establish a relationship with the Grand Elder, she should have some resources with His Excellency behind her. His Excellency glanced at Ning Shu and felt that she was a terrible relative, lying on the little devil's body and sucking her blood. Ning Shu? His Excellency's gaze was too obvious. Ning Shu couldn't pretend not to see it. His feelings were too strong, and his condemnation was too obvious. Fuck, he was looking for the little devil to buy something, not rob her. What was His Excellency doing? Why was he so guarded against her? Ning Shu was a little confused. It was you who took the little devil away. Why couldn't I see her once a year? Did she do something outrageous or unforgivable? Ning Shu was also very unhappy. She felt that she had been insulted, so she said directly, what do you mean? I'm looking for him to introduce business to him. I'm exchanging things with him, not robbing him. If you don't want to do business with us, then I'll find someone else. You're so unreasonable, so ruthless, and so inhumane. I'm really disappointed in you. His Excellency's eyebrows twitched when he heard Ning Shu's bitchy words. He restrained the emotions on his face and eyes and said coldly, I don't have the pure soul power you want, but I have a little merit. His Excellency said with some disdain, what's the use of just merit? Ning Shu said, it's useful. How can it be useless? At least he could get some dessert. Ning Shu said to the Void King, then you can exchange for some merit points. Merit points are also useful to the soul. The Void King was unwilling, and he had not succeeded even once. It was quite troublesome, exchanging an energy spirit body for merit, to be honest, was a loss, but there was no other way, the Origin King needed it. Next, it was time to discuss the method of exchange. Ning Shu would not let the Origin King suffer a loss, as even an abyssal prefect should know about energy forms. Generally speaking, the lower echelons of an organization wouldn't be privy to such information, but an abyssal prefect should be privy to such information. 1 energy body for 100 merit points. The abyssal prefect glanced at Ning Shu. What are you thinking? You're so fat, yet you're dreaming. Kong, she's always making personal attacks. It's really frustrating to work with someone like her, Ning Shu coldly said. Not only am I beautiful, but I'm also beautiful. The abyssal prefect said, 1 energy form can provide 20 merit points. Ning Shu chuckled. You're really old and ugly. Dream on. The Void King who couldn't get a word in edgewise. Do you have to attack like this when doing business? In a quarrel, whoever won would benefit. The abyssal prefect snorted. Then I won't trade. If you don't want to trade, then don't. I'll find someone else to trade with and give you the energy of the void. Abyssal prefect, you're a life form born in a small world. Although you're much stronger than the life forms of a small world, compared to the life forms of a small world, you're still a bit weaker. If you absorb a bit of the void's energy, you'll be able to improve your physique. If I give you an opportunity, you can treat me as a poor relative. In terms of physical strength, I can beat you to the ground, but in terms of behavior, I'm willing to cooperate with you. Who do you think you're mocking? Ning Shu ground his teeth, his eyes looking at the abyssal prefect more and more unfriendly. It was as if he didn't want to trade with the abyssal prefect anymore and only wanted to fight with him. The abyssal prefect was afraid of Ning Shu, so of course he wasn't. His expression didn't change as he said, some people break into other people's homes like bandits and still expect others to treat them well. Ning Shu's face was full of curiosity. One day, you can actually use the word bandits to describe others. I always thought that this word belonged to you guys. Ning Shu tilted his head, as if he was reminiscing about the past. Back then, you broke into my world of samsara and took away the master of samsara. Now you're calling me a bandit? We're the same. The abyssal prefect chuckled. So, you're here for revenge. Ning Shu made a sound of surprise. You're too narrow-minded. How can I possibly take revenge? I'm just returning home in glory, to show off. After all, at that time she was very weak. She was the one who handed the little demon to the abyssal prefect. It was a matter of her strength. She didn't hate the abyssal prefect. The situation forced her. The abyssal prefect looked at the complacent Ning Shu and clicked his tongue. You're so arrogant now. Ning Shu shrugged. Why can't I be arrogant? If I could press you to the ground and bow to you, then there would be a problem. Ning Shu, 1 energy body is worth 80 merit points. The abyssal prefect, 30. Ning Shu, 90. The abyssal prefect, 20. Dong Qian. What are you guys talking about? Why can't I understand at all? Ning Shu, 100. The abyssal prefect, 10. Ning Shu, since we can't reach an agreement, then let's not do business. Let's go. Ning Shu said to the abyssal prefect. The abyssal prefect, I don't really understand your grudges. Ning Shu tore open the bit wall and left the world of samsara. The abyssal prefect didn't stop him. The abyssal prefect casually opened the chat interface. It was a message from the main system. The abyssal prefect glanced at it and then closed the chat interface. His eyelashes drooped slightly, as if he was thinking or taking a nap. He put his fingers on his knees and tapped rhythmically. After leaving the world of samsara, the abyssal prefect said unhappily, whatever grudges you have, it's none of my business. Why do you use my business to mess around? Ning Shu explained carefully, he has no intention of cooperating with us, no, with you, so there's no need to talk about it. The Abyssal Prefect was stunned for a moment. How do you know? Ning Shu explained again, the first person we met and the person we're meeting now have cooperation between them. They're in the same boat. Sang Liang must have informed the Abyssal Prefect. The Abyssal Prefect was surprised. Since you know, why are you still here? Ning Shu, there's no loss in this trip. If you can get it, you'll make a profit. If you can't, it also proves something. Anyway, you won't lose anything. The Abyssal Prefect looked at Ning Shu speechlessly. Then where are we going next? Ning Shu, we have to shop around. The Abyssal Prefect, this is the second shop. Is there a third? Ning Shu, of course there is, but it depends on your luck. Call me Dad. The Abyssal Prefect, Dad. Chapter 41-42. In the end, what else could he do? He could only worry for her like a father. Ning Shu, don't move around here, I'll go buy some oranges. Ning Shu found the spatial node and directly found the world of reincarnation and entered it. She checked the world of reincarnation and found that there were a lot of them. Some of them had already taken shape, but some were empty. Some of them had souls. Little Fiend still managed these world of reincarnation very well. Void King asked, are you looking for the other one? Yes. The last time she came, she left a mark and could directly find Little Fiend. Void King thought about it and said, I feel that their relationship is better. Ning Shu turned around and left, then let's go back. Void King immediately pulled Ning Shu and said, since you're already here, why are you leaving? When Ning Shu and Little Fiend entered the world of reincarnation, the skeletons in the world of reincarnation felt that someone had invaded. A group of skeletons surrounded Ning Shu and Little Fiend. They held weapons in their hands. These weapons looked sharp and were much better than the weapons that Ning Shu gave them. Ning Shu looked at these skeletons. His eyes were dazzled and he really couldn't recognize them. It felt like they were all the same. Intruder, please leave. The skeleton threatened. Ning Shu hurriedly raised his hands and surrendered, I'm here to find someone, not to invade your world. You have to believe me. These skeletons didn't believe Ning Shu. Ning Shu asked, is Zhu Jun here? He's not here. He's in another world of reincarnation. Who are you? The skeleton asked. There wasn't a single familiar face. It was really drunk. Ning Shu said, then inform your leader that Ning Shu is here to visit. She no longer had the right to use this world. She couldn't feel the connection between her and this world. It didn't belong to her at all. In this world of reincarnation, she had also fed him with things. Bit by bit, she had put in a lot of hard work and raised this peerless martial art. She was like an old mother who had put in a lot of hard work. Forget it, I'll just treat it as property for the little demon. In a sense, the little devil was also her junior. She didn't need it in the world of samsara, and she needed to spend time managing it. She should give it to the little devil and let it fulfill its responsibilities. Ning Shu directly sat down. He was a little tired. He said to the vigilant skeletons, you guys, quickly go and inform him. If you don't, I will continue to wait here until he returns. Skeleton was very angry. He wanted to expel Ning Shu directly, but he also knew that he might not be able to defeat her. She could tear open the bit wall directly, but they couldn't. This was the difference in strength. A few skeletons left. The remaining skeletons were all monitoring Ning Shu, fearing that the two of them would cause trouble in the world of reincarnation. Ning Shu felt gratified when he saw these skeletons doing their job. The Origin King looked at these golden skeletons. To a certain extent, they were quite beautiful. You want to turn that soul into a skeleton like this? The Origin King was a little tempted, wanting to turn his first subordinate into a skeleton like this, with self-awareness and some strength, this was the kind of subordinate Dong Qian wanted. The Origin King said directly, how about we directly turn him into a skeleton? He didn't have a finished product before. Now that he saw the finished product, he was quite tempted. In fact, skeletons were not bad. Ning Shu said coldly, it's also possible, but these skeletons have no memories of their lives. They are all souls with deep obsession. Like that soul, it may not be able to withstand the pain of fusion. The Origin King touched his chin and said, why do we have to make skeletons ourselves? Why don't we just trade skeletons? What do you think? Don't be a producer of skeletons. Since there were people who could produce skeletons, why should they do something they weren't good at? Ning Shu looked at the Origin King with a little gratification. At least he had this awareness. But His Excellency and the little devil might not agree to trade skeletons. Skeletons made up the army of the world of reincarnation. If they were casually traded, it was likely to cause unrest in the army. These skeletons were all intelligent, and they were all souls with deep obsession. They had experienced a lot in their lives. Being traded like this was absolutely unbearable. Their loyalty would be greatly reduced. After all, there was no need to be loyal to people who would sell them at any time. Although His Excellency and the little devil had the ability to suppress these skeletons, there was no need to cause so much trouble for a little profit. Hearing Ning Shu's affirmation, the Origin King was a little proud. Then I will buy the skeletons directly. As for the soul, I will return it. No need to thank me. Ning Shu chuckled. When the time came, reality would teach him a lesson. Ning Shu chatted with these skeletons. They talked about the world of reincarnation, such as the monsters formed by soul poison and so on. These skeletons answered carefully. When it came to confidential matters, they would keep quiet. The Origin King, who was listening to their conversation, asked Ning Shu, I feel very familiar with this place. Not only this place, but also the Grand Uncle organization. Ning Shu sighed, I actually had a lot of merits in my previous account. There are merits? Ning Shu said, unfortunately, my previous account has been cancelled by the organization. As for the things in the account, naturally, they are the organization's. She was dead, so the organization would definitely delete this person's information. It was a pity that the merits in her previous account were gone. When she didn't need them, she didn't feel anything. But when she needed them, she felt her heart ache. No, she had to get them back. She had to get back the merits in her account. Those were her things. The merits she got back could be exchanged with the Origin King for energy bodies, and the energy bodies could be used by Fatan. The more Ning Shu thought about it, the more tempted she was. Those merits were earned by herself. She either bought them or traded them. She couldn't let them keep her merits. This was equivalent to her own death. Could the bank keep the money? Now that she was alive, she had to get it back. The leader is not here. She went to other places and can't be contacted for the time being. Come back later. The skeleton came back and said directly to Ning Shu. The skeletons present were nervous, on guard against Ning Shu's sudden anger. Ning Shu stood up, patted the sand on her butt, and said slowly, then I'll come back next time. Remember to tell her that I've been here. It should be true that they couldn't contact her. If they could, the little devil would come over. This little bit of affection was still there. Ning Shu left the world of reincarnation with the Origin King. The Origin King was in a bad mood. After running around for so long, I don't even know what the merits look like. Ning Shu said, you'll know soon. We've visited all 3 places. Is there anything else to visit? Ning Shu said, there was something wrong with my brain. Speaking of merits, any task taker with a little strength has them. Chapter 41-43. Not to mention powerful mission enforcers, people like the auctioneer and acquaintances in the army all had merit points. She didn't have to look for the government for this kind of thing. She could also look for individual investors. Besides, she had to get back the merit points in her account. She couldn't let the organization take advantage of her. Origin King glanced at Ning Shu and didn't say anything to dampen their morale. She was helping him. She was usually lazy, so he should let her help him a little longer. Origin King, then where are we going now? Origin King couldn't help but sigh. Origin King couldn't help but sigh. Ning Shu entered the consultation room. The first thing he did was to take out a fish eye and play with it in his hand. Origin King sat next to Ning Shu. Even if he disliked Ning Shu, he wouldn't show it. They were now in the same boat. He couldn't let others know that they had internal conflicts. After waiting for a while, he still hadn't come out. Ning Shu pinched a fish eye and took out another one. After a while, Sang Liang came out of the room and looked at Ning Shu impatiently. Ning Shu took a piece of tissue and wiped his hands. After saying that, there was finally tissue in the consultation room. Sang Liang said directly, "Unless you give us what we want, we won't make this deal." Ning Shu, "I'm not here to do business. I'm here to ask for something. Give me back the merit points in my previous account," Ning Shu said straightforwardly. Sang Liang, "The organization has the right to explain." He only knew that this was the reason. All the right to explain was in the hands of the organizers. Ning Shu, you have to be clear. Those things weren't given to me by the organization, but by me. Do you understand? It wasn't a bonus or anything. It belonged to him. Sang Liang, your account has been cancelled. Your account and everything else belong to the organization. Do you think it's reasonable for you to ask for this? Ning Shu blinked. Why is it unreasonable? I want my things back. How is that reasonable? Why do you have to talk about reason with me? But in this case, are you in the right? I can't be bothered to reason with you. Speaking of which, I'm very restless right now. I really want to fight. If you don't want to, then let's fight. Who would reason with him? Are you going to give it to me or not? Ning Shu slammed the table. He didn't know what material the table was made of, but Ning Shu's hand didn't even budge. Instead, it hurt a little. Sang Liang looked at Ning Shu coldly. Are you looking for trouble? Ning Shu, bullshit, I'm here for the money. Pay me back. If you don't pay me back, I'll keep pestering you. Sang Liang was expressionless. Then I'll pester you. Ning Shu jumped directly onto Sang Liang's back. His hands tightly wrapped around Sang Liang's neck and his legs clamped around Sang Liang's waist. However, his legs were too short to clamp down. Sang Liang's expression became very terrifying. He said in a low voice, "Get down." I won't. I've said it before. I'm going to pester you all the time. Unless you return the merit points on my account to me, I'll be on your back for the rest of my life. Do you believe me when I say that? Ning Shu threatened very seriously. With a person on Sang Liang's back, he wanted to see if he could run around. Sang Liang, do you want to die? Then kill me. As long as I don't die, I'll grow on your back. I want to go to the toilet. You know, I'm not in a spirit state anymore. I have physiological needs. Sang Liang's expression was very distorted. His face was as black as the bottom of a pot. He didn't look like a noble at all. He probably didn't expect Ning Shu to be so shameless. Playing with the fishy and disgusting fish eyeballs wasn't even her limit. Sang Liang tried to pull at the arm around his neck, but Ning Shu held it tightly. Who knew when Ning Shu would strangle Sang Liang's throat? Sang Liang was so angry that his whole body was trembling. The book in his hand flew up, and pages flew out one by one. Ning Shu attacked. A golden dragon coiled around Ning Shu, blocking the page's attack. Ding ding dang 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 sounds could be heard. Ning Shu's skin was bleeding, but it was still within the range that he could endure. What was the point of fighting? It was more interesting this way. One day, he would climb onto Sang Liang's back. Ning Shu tightened his arm and tightly strangled Sang Liang's neck. It's best not to get too agitated. If I'm not careful, I might cause problems to your neck and your head might turn. Origin King, in this situation, he really couldn't do anything. He really didn't know what to do. Should he persuade Ning Shu to get off this person's back, or persuade this person to give the thing to Ning Shu? She was being completely unreasonable. Was Sang Liang that kind of person? Of course not. The pages attacked Ning Shu, but Ning Shu remained motionless. She took a deep breath. Sure enough, there's a smell. Sang Liang's whole body stiffened like a stone. An attractive smell of money. What smell of money? This was the smell of money. Sang Liang, get off. This is my last warning. Think carefully about the consequences. Ning Shu whimpered. I'm not getting off. This is the most glorious moment of my life. I should record it. Unfortunately, I don't have a camera to record it. The next time he went to the pocket world, he would buy a camera and record the beautiful moments of his life. Sang Liang's body trembled slightly. He was obviously angered by Ning Shu. His face was like the bottom of a pot, and even his silver hair was a little messy. He was panting heavily. Ning Shu said, "You will encounter anything in life. You must treat it with a normal heart. Origin King, we are here to do business." After such a thing happened, Origin King could guarantee that this person wouldn't want to see Ning Shu again. Sang Liang calmed down after a while and called Senior Uncle over. Ning Shu looked at the chat interface and said directly, "Even if you call him over, I won't let go." Sang Liang said indifferently, "It doesn't matter if you don't let go. Just chop off his hand." Ning Shu shook his head and said, "It doesn't matter. If you chop it off, it can still grow back. But if you can ride on my body, there won't be a next time in this life. Even if I die under a peony, it's still romantic. It's worth it." After waiting for a while, Senior Uncle didn't come. Sang Liang's face became even darker. Senior Uncle probably hadn't woken up yet. Sang Liang's burden as an idol was still very heavy. He stayed in the consultation room and didn't go anywhere. He closed the door of the consultation room and stopped business. If someone came in at this time and saw such a high-energy scene, it would be quite wonderful. Although many people didn't know that Sang Liang was the main system, it didn't mean that Sang Liang didn't have self-esteem. As the main system's self-esteem and image. To put it simply, Sang Liang wanted face, and he wanted face very much. Chapter 41-44. The scene was very awkward and dull. The Origin King was so embarrassed that he didn't know what to say. Should he leave or stay here? The Origin King suddenly felt as if his heart was about to break. Having an insensible brat at home really made him worry too much, and it wasn't a normal kind of worry. He was forced to grow up overnight. Sang Liang said indifferently, "Let go, or you'll have to bear the consequences." Ning Shu sighed. "What's the use of saying this to me? Threats are useless. You might as well just return the merit on my account to me." Ning Shu smacked her lips again and said, "Uncle Main System, I want to eat dessert. Let's go buy dessert." Sang Liang ignored her and gave her a chuckle. Ning Shu was not angry. Is a little merit more important than the image of the main system? If I shout molestation now, I don't know how many people will come to watch the fun. Sang Liang. Molestation. His voice was full of ridicule. Not to mention that she was a little girl, with her appearance, who would molest her. What kind of illusion was this? Ning Shu sighed. I forgot that I'm still a child now, not a beautiful girl like before. But I said, someone is throwing money, so someone will definitely come. The Origin King wanted to say, don't go too far. Are they here to do business or to make enemies? If the Origin King was treated like this, he would be in the mood to kill this brat. He was really too sensible, and this little girl was too insensible. Ning Shu said, "Why hasn't Granduncle come yet? He doesn't care whether you are partners or not. I've always been curious. Why are you so loyal to Granduncle? What kind of feelings do you have to put yourself in Granduncle's shoes and worry about Granduncle's worries?" Sang Liang's body trembled slightly. Obviously, he was not used to people being so close. Disgust and rejection overflowed between his eyebrows. "What does this have to do with you?" "Ning Shu, it has nothing to do with you, but it affects my gossip. I've always suspected that there is some kind of relationship between you two." The Origin King asked humbly, "What does relationship mean?" Sang Liang's expression was cold and murderous. "Don't use dirty thoughts to guess things." Ning Shu clicked his tongue and said, "It's not like we're going to tell them. If they see us, they might think too much. Don't tell me that we're not allowed to think about it." Ning Shu hugged Sang Liang's neck tightly and climbed up a little, making Sang Liang's face even darker. When the three of them stopped talking, there was a suffocating silence and awkwardness in the consultation room. Sang Liang's aura could have asked others for help, but he didn't have the awareness to do so. Obviously, he didn't want others to see him like this. Was it because he didn't trust him or simply didn't want others to see him in such a sorry state? Sang Liang had already sent a message to the Granduncle, but he still hadn't come over. He didn't know what was going on. "Ha ha ha," Ning Shu said, "if he doesn't come to find me, you can go find him. Why are you wasting your time here? Give me back my merit points." Sang Liang stood motionless, as if he hadn't heard Ning Shu's words. Ning Shu didn't care either. He leaned his head on Sang Liang's shoulder, yawned, and began to close his eyes to rest. The Origin King didn't know whether to leave or stay. He felt that a woman like Ning Shu was simply filthy when it came to asking for money. If he owed her money, would she do the same to him? However, the Origin King felt that at this level, he couldn't do anything to him at all. He could stay as long as he wanted, therefore, the Origin King didn't understand why Sang Liang was so stubborn now. He wanted both face and money. Sang Liang gritted his teeth and said, "If you dare to drool, I'll pull out your teeth one by one and sew your mouth shut." Ning Shu laughed indifferently. "This angry and emotional appearance is more like a person. In the past, you always acted like a banished immortal and did the most black-hearted things. I think you're much cuter now." Ning Shu had a lot of time to waste with him anyway, but Sang Liang was different. With someone hanging on him, it must be uncomfortable as if he had thorns growing on his body. And for some reason, the Granduncle hadn't come yet. Ning Shu guessed that the Granduncle might really be sleeping. If he was awake and saw the news, even if he had something on hand, he would have come after finishing it. Sang Liang was really unlucky to have such a calamity. "Ning Shu, I'm a little hungry, I want to eat something." Before leaving, he had asked Earthworm to make some braised pork. He really missed it. Sang Liang didn't speak, and neither did the Origin King. Only Ning Shu spoke. Ning Shu said to Sang Liang again, "You should save yourself. The Granduncle obviously has no time to take care of you now." Sang Liang also had things that were tied down, such as his image and face. In fact, he could have called people over, or even the army, but he didn't. It was probably because the main system wanted to maintain the image of pressure, coldness, and absolute authority. If someone climbed on top of it, it would be too disillusioned, life was not satisfactory, and there were a lot of shackles on one's body. For example, the Granduncle and Sang Liang each had their own shackles. Sang Liang said calmly, "Ning Shu, what gave you the courage to do such a thing?" Ning Shu, "Of course it's because I'm beautiful and cute. What I want is just a little merit." Ning Shu said, "That's right. I won't give you any merit at all. Not even $100, Sang Liang was used to only taking in and not taking out. Even at this time, he was still stubbornly holding on. At this point, it was no longer a matter of merit. Ning Shu just wanted to make a big deal out of it, no matter what method he used. Ning Shu, don't talk, I'm going to sleep for a while. With that, he really closed his eyes, and even his breathing calmed down a little. A golden aura wrapped around Ning Shu's body. Ning Shu stopped talking, and Sang Liang focused his eyes on the Origin King. The Origin King felt a little uncomfortable being stared at by his all-like eyes and couldn't help but roll his eyes. What are you looking at me for? I'm just a follower. Before she did something, she didn't even discuss it with me. Sang Liang took a deep breath, suppressed the violence in his heart, and asked the Origin King, you created an army of souls. The Origin King glanced at Ning Shu, who was sleeping on Sang Liang's shoulder, and couldn't help but chuckle in his heart. She slept just like that, making him face such an awkward situation. What kind of animal behavior was this? Ning Shu was not really asleep, but leaning on Sang Liang, she found that there was a special kind of energy fluctuation on Sang Liang's body that radiated to her body, making her feel very comfortable. Even the energy running in her body was a little faster. What kind of physique did Sang Liang have? Chapter 41-45. If Sang Liang was a void creature, then what was his true form? Void creatures had their own special racial talents, so he was a little curious about Sang Liang's racial talent. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Ning Shu sped up his cultivation. Senior uncle would definitely come, sooner or later. He had to rest well for the battle. Hopefully, senior uncle would come later. She just jumped on Sang Liang's back on a whim and didn't expect there to be an unexpected gain. Sang Liang looked at the Origin King, who decided to hide the trade secrets. Fun. Sang Liang suddenly looked at him like he was an idiot. The Origin King felt insulted, but he had nothing to say. At this time, Sang Liang calmed down and asked for the information he wanted. Sang Liang, I originally wanted to make a deal with you, but you're so insincere when doing business. What's the point? Ning Shu sneered in his heart. He bought a fish and asked how it was cooked, braised or steamed. If he didn't say it, he was insincere. So, he didn't want to sell. Obviously, the Origin King couldn't detect the logic problem. He was a little hesitant about whether to say it or not. He glanced at Ning Shu, whose eyes were closed. It was really infuriating. If he were to face such a situation, he would not be able to handle it. Just as the Origin King was hesitating, a cold wind appeared in the consultation room. It was cold and had an almost indiscernible smell of decay, like damp wood. Ning Shu, who was knocking his head on Sang Liang's shoulder, opened his eyes and looked at the person who appeared. His appearance caused the temperature in the consultation room to drop. Sometimes, coldness represented the loss of energy. Senior uncle was colder than before. In the past, he was cold, indifferent, and ruthless. Now, it was even colder than before. His face was snow white, but his black hair and black clothes made his face even paler. His entire body was cold to the extreme. Just looking at him with his eyes would make one feel cold. Senior uncle saw the state of Sang Liang and Ning Shu and raised his eyebrows, a trace of surprise flashing in his eyes. He said to Ning Shu, come down. Ning Shu, okay, as long as you return the merit to me. The grand uncle obviously didn't know what had happened. Sang Liang explained, she wants the merit points in the account. She won't give it to her. That's it. The grand elder was silent for a moment. What position do you have to ask for this merit? He was no longer a member of the organization, yet he still had the cheek to ask for the organization's things. Ning Shu shook his head. That's not right. Although I've resigned, I still have to take my salary. Once this debt is cleared, it will be completely cleared. Do you understand? Grand uncle, come down first. Ning Shu shook his head and took a deep breath, which was mixed with Sang Liang's scent. I don't want to. His body is very comfortable. I don't know why, but I want to eat him. The Grand Elder and Sang Liang both frowned. Ning Shu continued, his physique must be very special. Tell me, is it the flesh of Tang Seng? Ah, I want to live forever. I want to live as long as the sky. I want to compete with the sun and moon. I want to be invincible in the east. The Grand Elder's tone was light, but very dangerous. Come down. Ning Shu, then return the merit to me. I don't want any more or less merit in my account. The Grand Elder narrowed his eyes and glanced at the Origin King next to him. The Origin King immediately moved to the side. Why are you looking at me? I'm just a passerby. I have no right to speak and no right to act. Ning Shu was more and more certain that Sang Liang's physique was a bit special. In the past, when she was weak, she only felt that Sang Liang was the main system. It was normal for him to be aloof and not like to interact with people. Now that she thought about it, it should be possible for him to not interact with people. Besides, he was a void creature. Did he need to interact with some weak mission enforcers? He only needed to issue an order. As Ning Shu thought about it, he buried his face in Sang Liang's neck and took a deep breath, as if he was inhaling catmint. An intoxicated expression appeared on his face. Sang Liang's body couldn't be any stiffer. The Grand Elder, the Origin King, although he didn't know what to do now, the Origin King still wanted to give Ning Shu a thumbs up. After all, there weren't many people who would court death like this. Sang Liang was furious. His face, which had always been expressionless, turned purple with anger. He tried his best to pull the arm wrapped around his neck, but Ning Shu didn't let go. After tossing and turning, Sang Liang's head was sweating. The Grand Elder walked over calmly and pulled Ning Shu's clothes to separate her from Sang Liang. Ning Shu hugged Sang Liang tightly. This force made Sang Liang stagger. The Grand Elder, let go. What do you think you're doing? Ning Shu laughed in her heart. It was great to have a hostage in her hands. Ning Shu, give me the thing and I'll let go. Are you all deaf? If you don't give me what I want, you want me to let go? Dream on. Just by grabbing her clothes, Ning Shu felt that the Grand Elder's hand was very cold. It was refreshing and cold. What an ice man. Sang Liang gritted his teeth, just kill him. The Origin King suddenly took a step forward. It seemed that he was still very worried about Ning Shu. Ning Shu smiled. She didn't look like she was about to be hacked to death at all. Instead, she leaned closer to Sang Liang's neck and almost stuck out her tongue to lick it. Her tone was very excited. Before I die, I must take a bite and taste it. The Origin King's expression gradually became cold. What kind of child was this? She was simply a brat. Was there a need to be so desperate for something? The Origin King thought about it and felt very touched. After all, why was she looking for merit? It was for him because he needed the energy body. However, whether they could return alive was another question. The more she was by Sang Liang's side, the more Ning Shu felt as light as a swallow. Her whole body was floating and very relaxed. The energy in his body sped up and became much more active. Sang Liang was really like Tang Sanzang. She really wanted to take a bite. What kind of top-grade physique was this? Ning Shu felt that she had found the reason why Grand Uncle always took Sang Liang with him. The two of them were inseparable. She really wanted to take Sang Liang home. With this thought in mind, Ning Shu did just that. The golden dragon appeared under Sang Liang's feet. Then, the golden dragon broke through the roof, jumped out, and escaped. The Origin King, fuck, did you forget someone? Why did you leave me here? Grand Uncle disappeared in a flash and chased after the golden dragon. The Origin King, who was ignored, left by himself. He was very disappointed. Was he not important at all? The golden dragon was very fast and quickly escaped from the organization. However, Grand Uncle was even faster. He blocked the golden dragon's path. Grand Uncle's expression was very cold as he stared at Ning Shu on Sang Liang's back. A great battle was about to break out. Now, they were quite like a man and a woman fighting for a man. Ning Shu sighed, "Let me have some fun. Maybe I'll return him." Chapter 41-46. Have some fun. What kind of tiger-like words were these? When the Origin King heard this sentence, he didn't quite understand what it meant, but when he saw the ugly expressions of the Grand Elder and Sang Liang, he guessed that it wasn't something good. Sang Liang almost squeezed the words out of his throat, full of murderous intent. "Do you want to die?" "Ning Shu, I don't want to die, but if I can die in your hands and have a taste, it's really worth it." What an exaggerated aria. A black sword appeared in the Grand Elder's hand. He held the black sword and slashed at Ning Shu. It was reasonable to say that when encountering such danger, people would subconsciously let go of Sang Liang to avoid the danger. Sang Liang didn't move, obviously believing in the Grand Elder. However, Ning Shu grinned and hugged Sang Liang's neck, not letting go. A huge golden dragon blocked in front of Sang Liang and Ning Shu. Clang! The golden dragon collapsed, but the attack was born. Immediately, the golden dragon quickly condensed and blocked in front of Yi Shiwen. The Grand Elder's expression became even colder. Ning Shu laughed like a villain. "Don't forget that there is still a hostage in my hands. Don't use too much force, or we might die together." She laughed arrogantly, tilting her head and taking another sip of the catmint. "He is really a treasure." Sang Liang couldn't stand being coveted like a piece of meat on a chopping board, being looked at like food. The loss outweighed the gain. "If you return my merit, I will naturally let him go. If you don't give me something, I won't let him go." It's such a simple thing, but you have to repeat it again and again. Don't you understand? Ning Shu was also a little impatient. "If you continue to compete, I will bite your neck directly next time. I guess his blood is special. If you attack me, I will slash you. Tell me, either you give me merit, or I want him." The Grand Elder's eyes were cold. He stretched out his hand and directly grabbed the Origin King with a pair of huge hands. The Origin King, who was watching the show, was caught off guard and was still at a loss. "What does it have to do with me?" "Senior Grand Uncle, exchange." Ning Shu probed again. It seemed that Sang Liang was still very important to the Grand Uncle. At least, the Grand Uncle didn't want to hurt him. That's what brothers should be like. I feel that Grand Uncle treats Sang Liang better than Jingqing. He could definitely beat up the Prime Minister ruthlessly. There must be something going on between the two of them. The Origin King was crying in his heart. His neck was being strangled, and it was as if his neck would be broken in the next second. Moreover, this person was really cold. It was as if he was stuck to a block of ice. The Origin King looked at Ning Shu pitifully. Save me, Ning Shu frowned. "Aren't they unkillable? Even if they die, they can still come back to life." The Origin King immediately reacted. "That's right, I won't die." Ning Shu said to Tai Shu Liliu, "This person has nothing to do with me. Even if you kill him, it has nothing to do with me. Just kill him." The Origin King immediately spat at Ning Shu. What kind of beast is this? Catching him was useless, so the Grand Uncle directly threw him out. The Origin King hit the mountain range, and the entire mountain range shook. The Origin King sank deep into the ground and didn't move for a long time. It was just unknown if he would die or not. Even if he didn't die, he was probably not far from death. Ning Shu took a deep breath of Sang Liang to suppress his shock. It was too terrible. The Origin King was really too miserable. Sang Liang, who was trembling with anger, said, "I can give you merit." Ning Shu was angry. What's wrong with this person? At least he has some persistence and principles. She couldn't bear to part with Sang Liang. Woo just hold on a little longer, okay? Ning Shu desperately breathed in Sang Liang. While he could still breathe, he quickly breathed in. It wouldn't be so easy to breathe next time. Listening to the sound of people desperately breathing, Sang Liang's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. I've already given you merit. Let go. Ning Shu, I don't want to. As soon as I let go, you will attack me and kill me. I'm scared. With that, she hugged Sang Liang's neck tightly. I don't know when the next time will be. Sang Liang, come down, we won't attack. Ning Shu, then what about the merit? Sang Liang took out a meson space and stretched his hand back. There's something I want in here. How do you know if there's enough? Sang Liang was probably angry, so he didn't have any temper. He said in a flat tone, there's only more, not less. Ning Shu, put it in my hand. I want to hug your neck now. Sang Liang, let go first. Ning Shu, put it in my hand first. Sang Liang seemed to be too lazy to entangle with Ning Shu and directly stuffed it into Ning Shu's hand. Ning Shu grabbed the meson space and reluctantly let go of Sang Liang's neck. Sang Liang almost instantly left Ning Shu's side and appeared next to Tai Shu. Tai Shu raised his black sword and was about to slash at Ning Shu, but Sang Liang stopped him. There's no need to fight with her. Sang Liang's voice was a little lower. I can feel the surging power in her body, and she seems to want to test her strength and find someone to fight. Ning Shu checked the space in the ring. There was a mountain of merit inside. Ning Shu was very happy. He could finally eat pastries. He was very happy to have achieved his goal. He looked at the two beautiful men with slender waists and long legs. It was a bit pleasing to the eye. However, Sang Liang was even more pleasing to the eye. He said to Sang Liang, let's keep in touch more in the future. Big brother, can I come again in the future? Sang Liang turned and left, leaving Ning Shu with a very cold back. Tai Shu also left. Ning Shu wasn't angry at all. He waved at their backs. I'll come and play with you when I'm free. It was a bit strange that they didn't fight. What was going on? After suffering such a big loss, they just let it go. Ning Shu took a deep breath. There seemed to be the smell of Sang Liang's body in the air. He really wanted to give Sang Liang some blood. There was a fragrance even without breaking the skin. If he let some blood, the fragrance would definitely be stronger. Ning Shu felt that there was nothing else to do and decided to go home to eat braised pork. However, he felt that he had forgotten something. Ning Shu thought for a while, but he couldn't remember anything. He went straight home. Earthworm saw Ning Shu and said, the things you want are ready. Earthworm looked back. Where's Virtual King? Ning Shu hammered his palm. I said I forgot something. It's Virtual King. She looked at the dishes on the table. She was too hungry after so long. It was better to eat first before going to find Virtual King. Ning Shu sat down and began to eat. Seeing Earthworm standing still, he said, eat too. Why are you standing there? Earthworm, I have no appetite. Chapter 41-47. No appetite. Ning Shu looked at Earthworm's cold face, poked the meat on the plate with his chopsticks, and asked, what kind of meat is this? What kind of meat do you think red braised meat is cooked with? Earthworm asked. Ning Shu. There are pigs in the void. Earthworm, of course it's found in the small world. If you want to eat something, I have to run around. Ning Shu smiled, then you have to sit down and eat with me. After all, you've been busy for a while. Earthworm did not sit down but went back to his room to cultivate. Ning Shu was indeed very hungry and mentally exhausted. Dealing with Tai Shu and Sang Liang was very exhausting. Halfway through the meal, the Origin King came back. He was dirty and covered in dust, and there were some grass leaves stuck in his head. His face was extremely ugly. Seeing Ning Shu sitting at the dinner table, his face became even uglier. He asked, "You left me behind and came back. Who did I become like this?" Of course, Ning Shu would not say that he had forgotten him. "You're very dirty. Go wash up. I have merit in my hands now." The Origin King suddenly forgot to be angry and quickly asked, "You got it? You want it back?" However, the scene was so tense that it seemed like it would not end until someone was killed. The Origin King was half dead at that time and had fainted. When he woke up, there was no one around him. He could only endure the pain in his body and come back. Seeing Ning Shu come back in one piece and still eating, he felt so wrong that he went up to question him. However, when the other party said that he had merit in his hands, the Origin King was very surprised and quickly asked how he did it. Ning Shu sighed, "You don't know how dangerous the situation was at that time. It was too dangerous. I don't want to recall it." The Origin King looked at the plate with 2 pieces of red braised meat left and wondered, "You can still eat." "Ning Shu, it's fortunate that I survived. It's because it's difficult that I have to eat what I want to eat. Life is too difficult." The Origin King went to take a bath, and Ning Shu finished the dishes on the table. When the Origin King came out of the bath, Ning Shu wiped his mouth and said to the Origin King, "I have merit in my hands. Do you want to exchange it with me?" With the attraction of merit, the Origin King did not want to know how Ning Shu got out of danger and got merit. The most important thing was that he had merit. At this moment it was easy to tell how close and distant they were. If it was Fatian, he would probably have grabbed Ning Shu and asked her about the ins and outs of the matter. Ning Shu would not hide anything from Fatian. Ning Shu didn't want to talk about it, and the Origin King didn't want to listen either. In the end, some things were important, but they were different for different people. Ning Shu grabbed a handful of merit points from the mess in space. This kind of merit points was condensed. It was like gold, but the size and shape were about the same. The Origin King held the gold in his hand but could not see what was so good about it. The Origin King asked, "How much do you want to exchange? We are acquaintances, we can't exchange less than them, right?" Ning Shu nodded. "How much do you want to exchange?" The Origin King thought for a moment. Since they said 100, 200 would be fine. 1 energy body for 200. Ning Shu, to be honest, she had actually given the Origin King 1000, after all, energy bodies could not be compared to merit. However, she ended up exchanging it for 200. This kind of heartless exchange. And, of course, he had to exchange. This was money delivered to his doorstep. If he did not take it, he would be struck by lightning. Ning Shu frowned for a moment before relaxing his eyebrows and saying with a helpless expression, "All right, since we're close, let's exchange like this." The Origin King suddenly had an expression of taking advantage of him. Fearing that Ning Shu would go back on his word, he immediately said, "Hurry up and exchange." The two exchanged 100 energy bodies for 20,000 merit points. After obtaining the merit points, the Origin King planned to give them to Dong Qian. Doing experiments, Dong Qian was in a daze when he came out, but when he saw Ning Shu and the Origin King, his soul trembled subconsciously. In short, seeing these two was definitely not a good thing. The Origin King, Ning Shu, asked, "What should we do?" Ning Shu said, "Just give him the merit points directly. This kind of good thing can be slowly absorbed by the soul." It was just like how people needed to eat when they were hungry. The Origin King grabbed a handful of merit points and handed them to Dong Qian. Dong Qian took the merit points and was a little confused. Why were they giving him gold? So what if he had gold? He could not buy anything with it. This gold was no different from Jinkala. Dong Qian now really regarded money as dirt. However, he had to take whatever these people gave him. Even if it was a pile of shit, he had to accept it with both hands. The merit points slowly changed in Dong Qian's hands and gradually disappeared, merging into Dong Qian's soul. Dong Qian turned pale with fright and quickly said, "I didn't do anything." The Origin King grabbed another handful of merit points and gave them to Dong Qian. Dong Qian could only tremble as he received them. In the end, Dong Qian's soul glowed with golden light and the Origin King gave up on feeding him. Ning Shu glanced at Dong Qian. With Dong Qian's current merit points, if he went to the afterlife, he would definitely be from a noble family. After all, with such great merit points, it was impossible for him to be a beggar. Thinking that something like merit points had been added to someone like Dong Qian, Ning Shu was a little angry and said to the Origin King, "You can try to see if merit points have any effect on the soul." The Origin King immediately stretched out his hand and flicked a ray of qi at Dong Qian. This ray of qi directly sent Dong Qian flying and he fell heavily to the ground, causing some dust to fly up. The Origin King was very satisfied. If it was the previous state of his soul, it would not be able to withstand such an attack and would definitely dissipate. However, it was still fine now. Dong Qian lay on the ground, unable to get up. He clutched his chest. In that instant, he felt that his soul was about to dissipate. It was extremely painful and he could not recover. Dong Qian struggled to stand up and lowered his eyes slightly to hide the emotions in them. When he raised his head again, his face was full of joy. He returned to the Origin King's side and said, "Many thanks for Sir's reward." Although he had suffered a blow, he knew that his soul was different. At least, he was still alive. The Origin King did not feel anything, but Ning Shu looked at Dong Qian. Dong Qian was frightened by Ning Shu's gaze. He did not know that this little brat was going to torture him again. The reason he had suffered such a blow was because of her words. At this moment, Dong Qian truly understood the lethality of a naughty brat, especially a naughty brat with strength. It was like a nuclear bomb, the kind that could be turned to ashes in minutes. Ning Shu sneered and said to the Origin King, "Don't look at how happy he is now. In fact, he hates you in his heart." The Origin King turned to look at Dong Qian. Dong Qian immediately denied it, "I don't. I am sincerely grateful to Sir." Chapter 41-48. "Shut up," Dong Qian screamed madly in his heart. "Do you want me to die?" Looking at the Origin King's suspicious eyes, Dong Qian wanted to cry. This was the lethality of a naughty brat. A single word from the other party could put him to death. There was no way he could continue living like this. The Origin King asked directly, "Do you hate me in your heart?" The Origin King felt wronged. In order to obtain this merit, it could be said that he had sacrificed half his life. Now that he had obtained it, the Origin King actually hated him. "Why do you hate me?" Dong Qian shook his head frantically, "I don't, really, Sir, you have to believe me, I wouldn't do such a thing." The Origin King nodded, "It's good that you know. This thing was not easy to find and it took a lot of effort." Dong Qian nodded, but as for what he was thinking in his heart, no one knew. However, Ning Shu intended to let the Origin King off so that he could be more careful. Humans were really complicated creatures. You acting like this will hurt his self-esteem and make him feel that his life is no longer in his own hands. Because of this, he will bear a grudge against you and feel that he can take revenge one day. No one would be happy to have their life in the hands of others. Ning Shu was the same in the organization. He was not criticizing the Origin King, but telling him to pay attention. The Origin King turned his head to look at Dong Qian again, causing Dong Qian to want to cover his face. "Don't look at me, what are you looking at me for?" The Origin King was a straightforward person and did not need to be tactful in front of his subordinates. "You think so?" Dong Qian was still stubbornly denying it, "I don't think so." "Ning Shu, this is human nature, why do you keep denying it? The more you deny it, the more it proves that this is what you really think. Dong Qian, I beg you to shut up." If not for him being unable to win, Dong Qian wanted to kill Ning Shu. If he did, there would be one less scourge in the world. Before he died, he had been harmed by her, and after he died, he had been harmed by her again. This person was simply his nemesis. There must have been some kind of enmity between them in their previous lives, the kind that could not be resolved. Ning Shu said to the Origin King, "If you want to control humans, you need to know how they think. The human mind is very sensitive and can even go from one extreme to another. Besides, it's normal for him to not be convinced by you." The Origin King nodded and said to Dong Qian, "Tell me what's in your heart. Tell me the truth." Dong Qian, "That I'm so fucking ashamed." Dong Qian felt a sense of shame, as if he had been stripped naked. If he really wanted to say it out loud, he would have to say the dark things in his heart. Some things were only suitable to take root and sprout in dark corners. They couldn't see the light, even if they were dead. Dong Qian avoided the topic and said with a helpless expression, "My lord, can you not suddenly make a move for no reason? I really can't withstand my lord's strength." The Origin King said very straightforwardly, "I won't kill you. I'm just experimenting with this thing, not attacking you for no reason." Dong Qian felt powerless. He could only smile without saying a word. Ning Shu was too lazy to care about this matter. In the future, Dong Qian would be one of the Origin King's people. As for the relationship between them, Ning Shu was too lazy to care. She gave all the energy bodies she had exchanged with the Origin King to Fa Tian. She touched the cold whip which was fluctuating with energy. She didn't know when she would wake up. If she had Fa Tian, her battle power should be multiplied by 2, and it shouldn't be a problem for her to fight against Grand Elder. Jin Ji had been guarding Fa Tian, which made Ning Shu feel more at ease. Ning Shu wouldn't underestimate Jin Ji's battle power. He was desperately protecting Fa Tian, so Fa Tian wasn't in any danger. Ning Shu left Fa Tian's room and went to Earthworm's room. She was really tired and bitter after being tossed around between these men. Earthworm opened the door, and Ning Shu walked into the room. Earthworm's room was very elegant. There was a light blue porcelain vase on the table with wildflowers on it. It made the whole room more elegant. The wildflowers also emitted a fragrance, but the fragrance was mixed with a faint bitterness. Ning Shu looked at Earthworm. Anyone who looked at Earthworm would think that he was a graceful and elegant gentleman, not an earthworm. In the past, Earthworm was always called two-legged monster, and his tone was full of malice and rejection towards humans. Now, he had learned to be a human. He had learned the etiquette, shame, and aesthetics of humans. In any case, Ning Shu rarely saw Earthworm turn into a big earthworm. Of course, it was also very likely that his clothes would be torn. Every time he turned into an earthworm, he had to take off his clothes first. When he turned into a human, he had to wear clothes. Just listening to it made him feel that it was very troublesome. Ning Shu felt that if it was an earthworm, he would be too lazy to turn into one and crawl on the ground. Ning Shu sat down, and Earthworm poured a cup of tea for Ning Shu. It was quite a leisurely and carefree feeling. Ning Shu drank a mouthful of bitter tea and asked Earthworm how his cultivation was going. Earthworm told him about the problems he encountered. Ning Shu answered some of the other questions one by one and checked Earthworm's meridians. In the end, he was a monster beast, so his physical fitness was very good. If a human's meridians were as thick as a thumb, then Earthworm's meridians were as thick as an underground water pipe. It could store more energy, and it would not be blocked. Earthworm listened very carefully. The two of them stayed in the room for several days. When they came out, Ning Shu's hair was messy, but Earthworm was still so elegant. He was more like a human than she was, quite upright. She did not know where Su Wang and Dong Qian had gone. They were probably busy. Anyway, she did not see them. Ning Shu brought a little energy with him and went to organize again. She was going to eat some dessert. She ate dessert along the way and came to the consultation room. Just as she was about to step into the consultation room, the door closed with a bang. Ning Shu held the dessert directly in front of his chest. Ning Shu's heart ached. Heartless. They were people who had a physical relationship, but he was so cruel to her. Ning Shu held the dessert in front of his chest and ate it with his fingers. Then, he directly smashed the door of the consultation room with his fist. With a kick, the two doors fell down. The people coming and going on the street looked at Ning Shu in surprise. Ning Shu sat in the consultation room and waited for Sang Liang. A day without seeing Sang Liang felt like 3 years. She missed Sang Liang very much. If Sang Liang did not appear, she would keep waiting here. After waiting for a long time, Sang Liang finally appeared. However, it was a projection. Ning Shu reached out to the projection and penetrated it. Ning Shu snorted. Boring, did he have to be so guarded against her? He directly made a projection without a physical body, heartless. They had a physical relationship, but he was so guarded against her. It was really sad, Sang Liang sneered. You think this is your own backyard? You can walk around whenever you want. Ning Shu said, that's right. I came to the backyard to see you. Chapter 41-49. Ning Shu looked at the projection of Sang Liang. It was as if the real person was in front of her. She could see and touch him, but she couldn't smell his scent. Ning Shu was very disappointed. She said bitterly, we have been intimate before. It's so sad that you keep me at arm's length. Sang Liang's projection trembled twice, and the projection was a little distorted. Shut up. Ning Shu sighed, well, I'm looking for you for a serious matter. You made a projection. What should we do? Sang Liang didn't speak. Ning Shu said again, I'm here to exchange something you want. Sang Liang was silent. Ning Shu said, how can you do business like this? You don't even show up. That's too insincere. Ning Shu sneered, are you so afraid of me? You're just a so-so. Ning Shu felt that the insurmountable mountain in her heart before wasn't so unreachable and difficult to climb now, standing at the top of the mountain, it's just a so-so, Sang Liang, I'm not afraid. I'm just disgusted. Ning Shu asked doubtfully, disgusted? How can I be disgusted? I don't think you're disgusting at all. You smell good. What the hell? Ning Shu took out a finger-long bottle. Was it the thing that senior uncle wanted? He just didn't know if Sang Liang would show up to get it for senior uncle. Ning Shu snorted. He felt like he was a vicious supporting role, making things difficult and tormenting them. Sang Liang glanced at the bottle in Ning Shu's hand and fell into silence. He was probably struggling in his heart. Should he come or not? Ning Shu promised, I will never jump on your body. But I can hug your leg. Sang Liang said, I don't believe in this thing. Ning Shu opened the bottle cap very generously, can you smell it? By the way, can the projection smell it? Ning Shu put the cap back on the bottle. He believed that Sang Liang had the means to test it, and the thing she took out was real. Sang Liang was still silent. His silence was the Kong Chiao of tonight. Ning Shu sat calmly on the chair. She was here to stir up trouble. It would be fine if they had a deal, but if they had to snatch it, then they would have to fight. Ning Shu really needed to test his own strength, so that he could have a better idea. Sang Liang's projection disappeared. After a long time, he came out from the inner room. Seeing Sang Liang, Ning Shu took a deep breath. Sang Liang paused for a moment before turning around and walking away. Ning Shu shouted, don't go. Perhaps because he sensed something, Ning Shu felt that the entire room was filled with Sang Liang's scent. The more he noticed it, the more obvious it became. There was a special smell in the incense. In the past, he had only thought that it was incense, but ever since he got closer to Sang Liang, he realized that it was different. Ning Shu, I'm here to make a deal. You look like you're being teased. Who has the time to tease you? Do you really think you're as beautiful as a flower? Sang Liang's expression was cold. He sat down and went straight to the point. I can make a deal. Ning Shu, not only do I want pure soul power, but I also want She stretched out her fingers and lifted Sang Liang. Sang Liang stood up and was about to leave again. He didn't want to talk to Ning Shu at all. Ning Shu snorted. You're really like a woman. Not only do I want pure soul power, but I also want your blood. Sang Liang rejected without hesitation. I refuse. Ning Shu, you can think about it. You don't want a few 100 milliliters of blood, just a few drops, a dozen drops, or even 100 drops, that would be even better. Sang Liang knew that Ning Shu had bad intentions. He glanced at the bottle and asked coldly, what do you want it for? Ning Shu smiled and said, nothing. I just want to smell it. I think it smells good. Sang Liang never believed Ning Shu's nonsense. Ning Shu said again, a few drops of blood and some soul power. You can get what you want. I'm just curious about you. As for soul power, it's worthless. I only want to make a deal with you. Think carefully about whether you want to make a deal or not. Ning Shu actually wanted to test whether Sang Liang's blood would be beneficial to Fa Tian. Fa Tian had really been asleep for too long. As time passed, Ning Shu's heart became more and more uneasy. She was so uneasy that she thought Fa Tian had lost his mind. This was a very terrible thing. It was simply a fatal blow. Fa Tian, who was asleep, didn't even have any consciousness contact with Ning Shu. When she probed, she didn't feel Fa Tian's consciousness fluctuations. Was this kind of origin energy important? Of course it was important, but it was worth it to use it to exchange for something that would be beneficial to Fa Tian. She could also get some soul power to trade for energy bodies with that rich origin king. Fa Tian was now a big eater of energy bodies, swallowing as much as he could. There was simply no way to satisfy him. Sang Liang was still hesitating. Ning Shu was still tempting him. You have to think about Grand-Uncle's body. Even I can smell his scent. His situation isn't very good. The situation in his Sea of Law isn't very good. Sang Liang wasn't embarrassed at all. He was still very calm. With just this little bit, you still want so many things. Ning Shu stretched out his hand and pinched Sang Liang's face as fast as lightning. Speak properly. What do you mean by, with just this little bit? People can't speak against their conscience. Sang Liang leaned back, avoiding Ning Shu. His eyebrows were tightly furrowed with deep disgust, but he was still calm and did not fly into a rage. The place where Ning Shu pinched turned red, but it quickly returned to a pale white color. Sang Liang stared at Ning Shu with a death gaze. I'm warning you, if you do this again, I won't let you walk out of the organization. He was really murderous. His whole body was suffused with a cold murderous aura. Ning Shu obviously believed that Sang Liang had the strength. She was deep in the enemy's territory. With so many people in the organization, she could be drowned by a sea of people. Ning Shu said, I saw that you kept resisting giving me blood. I felt that you weren't made of flesh and blood, so I pinched you. What a load of nonsense. Sang Liang was very clear. From the past, he could tell that this was a troublemaker that was difficult to discipline. Although she didn't do anything outrageous when she was alive, that was because of her body's problem. A troublemaker with strength was even harder to discipline. A troublemaker with absolute strength would directly spiral into the sky. Ning Shu was stared at by Sang Liang. She touched her face. Did I become beautiful again? To exchange or not, it's a matter of one sentence. Ning Shu said, can't you be more straightforward? If you don't want to exchange, I'm going home. If you want to exchange, then hurry up. You hate me, yet you insist on being so indecisive. The sooner we get things done, the sooner you'll be free. Ning Shu knew that this girl was starting to habitually trick people again. Chapter 4150. Even at this time, he still wanted to bargain. Ning Shu was really convinced. He was obviously being coveted, but he still wanted to take advantage and maximize the benefits. This habit had probably become instinctive. Facing someone who could jump on him at any time, he still wanted to maximize the benefits. Ning Shu gave Sang Liang a thumbs up in his heart, a perfect interpretation of his unchanging nature. Ning Shu said, "If you let me jump on you, I can think for as long as I want, how about?" Sang Liang looked at Ning Shu with extreme indifference and finally said, "I don't want to trade." Ning Shu was very disappointed. "Sigh, forget it if you don't want to trade. Actually, I'm helping the poor, but you didn't give me the chance. Forget it." Ning Shu clicked his tongue, put away the bottle, stood up, and left. When Ning Shu walked to the door, Sang Liang called out to Ning Shu, "Wait." Ning Shu immediately turned around and said to Sang Liang with a smile, "You said no, but your body is very honest." She sat back down again, "Then let's trade." Ning Shu was very surprised. Sang Liang really had nothing to say to the granduncle. Did he really want to bleed? Ning Shu actually came to try his luck. If he succeeded, he would naturally make a profit. If he didn't succeed, he wouldn't lose out. At least he would get to eat the dessert. Now it seemed that he had made a profit. Sang Liang's tolerance towards Ning Shu had probably gone up another level. In the face of her various flowery words, he could be indifferent. It was as if he was deaf, he could not hear, and he could turn a blind eye. He was really like a clay bodhisattva. Sang Liang said, "1 bottle won't do. At least 10 bottles. Ning Shu looked at Sang Liang with tolerance. Mei Xiang is right, but I won't listen to her no matter what. Ning Shu blinked and looked at Sang Liang with his little chubby face. "What are you talking about?" Sang Liang, 10 bottles of initial power. Ning Shu immediately said, "Don't mess around. Speak properly. Be normal." Sang Liang, "If you don't have 10 bottles, I won't trade with you." Ning Shu was not angry. "It shouldn't be like this. The more I want to maximize my benefits, the more I feel that my constitution is amazing." In the face of Sang Liang's exorbitant demand, Ning Shu was no longer as angry and powerless as when he was weak. It was probably because she had confidence, a kind of strength, and a kind of belief that supported her. Therefore, a person must have confidence. If you don't have money, you must have talent. If you don't have money, you must have looks. If he didn't have any of these, then he would have to work hard to grasp a type of power. In short, if he had the strength and belief to support himself, then he would have nothing to fear. Strength makes me fearless. Ning Shu took a deep breath. "Sir, it smells so good." Sang Liang remained indifferent. Perhaps he was feeling like a nuclear bomb had exploded in his heart, but on the surface, he did not show any reaction. Faced with Ning Shu's probing, he did not show any signs of fear. It was as if he was silently agreeing, but at the same time, he did not admit it. But sometimes, using silence to deal with things was a form of compromise. Silence is never a positive action. Sang Liang looked at Ning Shu. 2 bottles. Ning Shu immediately said, "I'm so touched." Although Sang Liang was silent and looked at her as if she was crazy, he was still a little confused and puzzled. Obviously, he could not keep up with her pace. Ning Shu became a loving brain. "I'm really so touched. I'm really doing my best for uncle." As she spoke, she took a tissue and blew her nose. "The friendship between you two is really touching." Ning Shu gave her a thumbs up. "I haven't been so touched in a long time." Sang Liang's expression was very disgusted. His expression was like an old man looking at his phone in the subway. "Sang Liang, can you speak normally?" Ning Shu's face instantly became serious. "I can give you 2 bottles, but I want more blood." "Tell me, how much blood will you give me?" Sang Liang, 10 drops. Ning Shu shook her head. "That's too little. At least 100 milliliters." Sang Liang, what are you dreaming about? The two bargained. Sang Liang gave 15 drops of blood, and Ning Shu gave him 2 bottles. After giving him a bottle as a deposit, Sang Liang took out a knife and cut himself. Ning Shu cried out again. I'm really so touched. Sang Liang took a deep breath and went directly into the inner room. When he came out, he held a transparent glass bottle in his hand and handed it to Ning Shu. Ning Shu said, "How do I know there are 15 drops?" Sang Liang, 15 drops. As for whether you believe it or not, it has nothing to do with me. Ning Shu took the bottle. A wonderful smell lingered at the tip of Ning Shu's nose. It was Sang Liang's smell. Just by smelling it, Ning Shu felt that his body was lighter, it was the energy flow that was faster. Ning Shu took a deep breath, then closed the lid and gave the other bottle to Sang Liang. Sang Liang took the bottle and turned to leave. He did not want to look at Ning Shu. Ning Shu saw that Sang Liang was about to leave. Ning Shu immediately said, "Wait, I have something to ask." Sang Liang left without looking back. "I'm not answering." Ning Shu called twice, but Sang Liang did not respond. Ning Shu got what she wanted and left the City of Laws. When she left the Sea of Laws, she met the travel-worn grand-uncle. When grand-uncle saw Ning Shu, he stopped and looked at her. "What are you doing here?" Ning Shu said with a smile, "I'm here to see Sang Liang. I like him very much now." Grand-uncle glanced at her. "Don't pester him." "Ning Shu, how can it be pestering? I want to see him, and he comes out to see me. It's such a simple matter. How can you say that I'm pestering him?" Grand-uncle's gaze was like a sharp blade, as if it could penetrate Ning Shu. "What's your purpose in looking for Sang Liang?" Ning Shu could not help but wipe her non-existent tears. "I'm really touched. I'm really touched by the deep friendship with Sang Liang." Grand-uncle looked at Ning Shu condescendingly. His expression was like looking at a fool. Looking at Ning Shu's pretentious performance, he looked on coldly and expressionlessly. Grand-uncle interrupted Ning Shu's sobbing. "Don't come here. If I could kill you in the past, I can kill you now." Ning Shu's sobbing immediately stopped. She looked at grand-uncle coldly. "Thank you for your reminder, old grandpa. You killed me once. I must kill you back. Come." A huge dragon head rose behind Ning Shu, eyeing her covetously. Grand-uncle exhaled, shook his head, and walked away, leaving Ning Shu alone to prepare for a fight. This son of a bitch. Ning Shu was so angry that he could not swallow it. He would kill this bitch sooner or later. Now, he had more important things to do. When Ning Shu returned home, he went directly to Fa Tian's room and took out the bright red blood. Jin Ji saw the thing in Ning Shu's hand and went over with some doubts. When he opened it, his saliva flowed out like a waterfall. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.